The cargo bay doors hissed open, and Katie Morrison stepped onto the polished floor of Zenith 7 station. She rolled her shoulders, feeling the stiffness from 12 hours of piloting her ship through the jump gates. The station stretched out before her like a small city, with walkways crisscrossing above and below, shops and cantinas lining every level. Hundreds of beings moved through the space, but not one of them looked human. Katie had gotten used to that over the past 3 months. Earth was new to the galactic community, and humans were still a rare sight on most stations. She caught the stairs as she walked, pulling her brown hair into a messy ponytail. A group of small furry creatures scattered away from her path. A tall, blue-skinned being with forearms watched her with wide eyes from behind a market stall. She ignored them all. Katie had cargo to deliver and only 6 hours before her next shipment deadline. The mining equipment in her hold needed to reach Bay 47 on the lower levels. After that, she could grab food and maybe sleep for a few hours before heading back out. The station's air smelled recycled and slightly sweet, nothing like the air back home in Montana. Katie missed the scent of pine trees and fresh snow. She missed her family's ranch, the wide open spaces, the mountains on the horizon. But freight hauling paid better than ranching ever could, especially now that Earth had access to galactic trade routes. She found the delivery terminal and uploaded her cargo manifest. A mechanical voice confirmed the delivery location. Katie made her way to the nearest lift, stepping inside with a tall, thin creature that looked like a walking stick insect. It pressed itself against the far wall, trembling slightly. "It's okay," Katie said gently. "I'm just going to level 3. The creature made a clicking sound and rapidly exited at the next level, even though the display showed it had selected level 5. Katie sighed. This happened a lot. She didn't understand why so many aliens seemed afraid of humans. Sure, Earth was different from most planets, but humans weren't monsters. The cargo delivery went smoothly. The mining company's representative, a stocky creature with gray skin and no visible eyes, accepted the equipment without incident. It communicated through a translation device that turned its whistling sounds into standard galactic speech. Katie collected her payment credit and headed back up to the commercial levels. Her stomach growled. Ship rations were getting old and she wanted real food, even if real food on a station meant synthetic protein shaped to look like actual meals. She spotted a cantina called the Spiral Rest and walked inside. The cantina was crowded and loud. Music played from speakers she couldn't identify, a strange warbling melody that didn't sound bad once she got used to it. The air was thick with dozens of different scents, some pleasant and some definitely not. Katie found an empty spot at the bar and sat down on a stool that was a bit too small for her frame. A tentacled bartender approached, its translation device lighting up. "What do you consume, human? What do you have that won't poison me?" Katie asked. This was always the tricky part. Most alien food was either toxic to humans or tasted like plastic. "Protein Blend 7 is compatible with your biology," the bartender said. "I'll take that, thanks." While she waited, Katie pulled out her datapad and checked her messages. 2 new job offers, both for standard cargo runs. Nothing exciting but steady work. She was about to respond when raised voices caught her attention. Across the cantina, near the back wall, a large reptilian creature was standing over a smaller, rodent-like being. The reptilian was easily 7 feet tall with dark green scales and a mouth full of sharp teeth. It wore armor plating across its chest and carried weapons on its belt. The smaller creature was cowering, holding a data tablet protectively against its chest. "You owe the syndicate money," the reptilian growled, loud enough that half the cantina could hear. "You pay now, or I take compensation from your body." The smaller creature squeaked something that Katie's translator couldn't pick up. It was clearly terrified. Other patrons in the cantina looked away, suddenly very interested in their drinks and meals. No one moved to help. Katie felt a familiar frustration rising in her chest. She'd seen bullies before on Earth and now out here in space. They were the same everywhere, picking on those who couldn't fight back. She stood up and walked toward the confrontation. "Hey," she called out. "How about you back off?" The reptilian turned to look at her. Its eyes were yellow with vertical slits for pupils. It studied her for a moment, then laughed, a hissing sound that showed all of its teeth. "A human," it said. "The soft pink things from the Deathworld. You should go back to your drink, little creature." Katie stopped a few feet away, hands relaxed at her sides. "I'm asking nicely. Leave the little guy alone." The smaller creature took the opportunity to scurry away, disappearing through a side door. The reptilian watched it go, then turned its full attention to Katie. The cantina had gone completely quiet. Even the music seemed to have stopped. "You cost me my payment," the reptilian said, stepping toward her. "Do you know who I am? I am Kelthros, enforcer for the Krell Syndicate. I have killed over 40 beings with my bare claws." "Congratulations," Katie said flatly. "You want a medal?" Kelthros moved fast, faster than Katie expected. One massive hand shot out and shoved her in the chest. It was a hard hit, meant to send her flying backward. Katie rocked back slightly on her heels but stayed standing. She hadn't even needed to step back to keep her balance. Kelthros looked at his hand, then back at Katie, confusion crossing his reptilian features. Several aliens in the cantina gasped. The bartender dropped a glass. "Huh," Katie said, reaching up to adjust her ponytail, which had come loose from the impact. "That all you got? You dare mock me?" Kelthros hissed. His hand went to his belt, pulling out a sleek weapon that looked like a small pistol but crackled with blue energy. A plasma gun, Katie realized. She'd seen them in the weapons shops on Earth. They were expensive and deadly, capable of punching through most armor and vaporizing flesh. Kelthros aimed the weapon directly at Katie's face, his finger on the trigger. The barrel was less than 3 feet from her nose. Katie could feel the heat radiating from it. Around the cantina, aliens dove for cover, hiding under tables and behind pillars. The bartender disappeared behind the bar. Katie looked at the gun, then at Kelthros, then back at the gun. She could feel her heart rate picking up slightly, but it was more annoyance than fear. She reached up with one hand and calmly tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Then she met Kelthros's eyes and asked in a perfectly calm voice, "You done?" For a moment, nothing happened. Kelthros stared at her in disbelief. His hand trembled slightly on the weapon. Then his confusion turned to rage. "You think I won't fire?" he roared. "You think I'm afraid of a Deathworlder?" "I think you're making a scene," Katie replied. "And I think you should put the gun down before you do something stupid." Kelthros squeezed the trigger. The plasma bolt erupted from the barrel with a sound like thunder in the enclosed space. It hit Katie square in the face, right on her left cheek. The impact snapped her head to the side, and she felt the burning sensation immediately, like someone had pressed a hot iron against her skin. The smell of burned flesh filled her nostrils. Katie's head stayed turned for a moment. The cantina was dead silent. Then, slowly, she turned her face back to look at Kelthros. The left side of her face had an angry red burn mark already blistering, but she was still standing, still conscious, still looking at him with those calm brown eyes. "Ow," she said simply. The cantina erupted into chaos. Aliens screamed and ran for the exits. Some species couldn't handle the stress and simply fainted on the spot. The bartender was yelling something in a language Katie didn't know. Alarms started blaring as the station's security systems detected weapons fire. Kelthros stood frozen, staring at Katie in absolute horror. His yellow eyes were huge, his mouth hanging open. The gun fell from his nerveless fingers and clattered on the floor. That's impossible," he whispered. "You should be dead. Your head should be gone. How are you still standing?" Katie touched her cheek gently, wincing at the pain. It hurt quite a bit, actually, probably a second-degree burn. She'd need to get it treated, but she'd had worse injuries back on the ranch. Horse kicks, barbed wire cuts, that time she'd fallen off the barn roof. Pain was something you dealt with and moved past. "Where I come from," Katie said quietly. "It takes more than that to put someone down." She stepped forward, and Kelthros stumbled backward, tripping over his own feet. Katie walked past him to the bar and called out to wherever the bartender was hiding. "Hey, I'm going to need some medical gel if you have it, and I still want that protein blend." Kelthros was backing toward the door, his eyes never leaving Katie. "What are you?" he breathed. Katie turned to look at him, and despite the pain in her face, she smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "I'm just a freight hauler from Montana, but you? You're going to be the guy who picked a fight with a human and lost." She moved fast then, faster than Kelthros could react. One punch right to his armored chest. Katie put her weight behind it, using the techniques she'd learned in military training. The impact sent Kelthros flying backward. He crashed through 2 tables, scattering chairs and drinks everywhere, before hitting the back wall with a heavy thud. He slid down. The security office was cleaner than Katie expected. White walls, comfortable chairs, and a large desk where the insectoid chief sat reviewing data on multiple screens. Katie sat across from it, a medical patch now covering the burn on her face. The station's medical team had been extremely nervous while treating her, especially when she'd told them the burn wasn't that bad. For the record, the security chief said, its translator device making its clicking sounds into standard speech. Please state your name and origin, Katie Morrison, from Earth. I'm a registered freight hauler. License number TH7743. The chief's compound eyes reflected the glow of its screens. And you are aware that Earth is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld? Katie shrugged. I heard something about that. Never really understood what it meant. The chief's antennae twitched in what might have been surprise. You don't know? The classification means Earth is one of the most dangerous planets ever discovered in the known galaxy. Most species would die within hours of landing there, if they survived the descent through your atmosphere at all. Really? Katie leaned forward, genuinely curious. Why? The chief pulled up a file on one of its screens and turned it so Katie could see. It showed Earth from space, blue and green and beautiful, but the file next to it was full of red warning symbols. Your planet's atmosphere contains 21% oxygen, the chief explained. For most species, oxygen is a toxic gas. We can tolerate small amounts, but prolonged exposure causes cellular damage and eventual death. Your people breathe it constantly. Katie had never thought about it that way. Okay, what else? Your gravity is classified as extreme. Most habitable worlds have gravity between 0.6 and 0.8 standard. Earth's gravity is 1.0, nearly 50% higher than the galactic average. Growing up in that environment makes your bone density and muscle mass far greater than most species. That explained why the shove from Kelthros hadn't done much. Katie had grown up hauling hay bales, fixing fences, and wrestling cattle. Compared to that, one alien's push was nothing. Your weather patterns are catastrophic by galactic standards, the chief continued, pulling up images of hurricanes, tornadoes, and blizzards. These storms would qualify as natural disasters on most worlds. On Earth, they occur regularly. Your temperature ranges from well below freezing to hot enough to kill most species. You have earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and something called wildfire season. Katie thought about the summers back home, when the mountains would fill with smoke and the sky turned orange. Yeah, fire season's pretty rough. The chief made a sound like a whistle. And your planet's biology. Where do I even start? You have creatures that inject venom capable of killing a being your size within minutes. You have microscopic organisms that cause deadly diseases. You have predators that hunt in packs and can run for hours without stopping. You evolved alongside all of this. I mean, we learned to deal with it, Katie said. We're pretty good at adapting. That, the chief said firmly, is an understatement. Humans are possibly the most adaptable species we've ever encountered. You can survive in environments that would kill most of us. You heal from injuries that would be fatal to others. You can eat food that's toxic to most biology and somehow thrive on it. Katie was starting to understand why people kept staring at her. So when Kelthros shot me, he used a weapon designed to kill armored soldiers from the Vraxian military. It should have completely destroyed your head. The fact that you survived with only a burn it's changing how we understand human biology. A knock on the door interrupted them. Another security officer entered, this one tall and vaguely humanoid but with pale purple skin and large black eyes. It whispered something to the chief. The chief's antennae drooped. I see. Send them in. The door opened wider and a being unlike any Katie had seen before glided into the room. It was tall and thin, almost skeletal, with pale skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. It wore flowing robes that moved even though there was no wind. Its face was angular and elegant with large eyes that held what looked like entire galaxies. Katie Morrison, the being said, its voice like music. I am Ambassador Lixil of the Galactic Council. I have been reviewing your encounter with the Krell Enforcer. Katie stood up, feeling like she should show some respect. Ma'am or sir or, sorry, I don't know the right term. A small smile crossed Lixil's face. Ambassador is sufficient. Please, sit. We have much to discuss. Katie sat back down, feeling nervous for the first time since arriving at the station. The Galactic Council was basically the government for this entire section of space, from what she understood. Having one of their ambassadors personally show up was probably a big deal. Lixil moved gracefully to stand by the window, looking out at the station beyond. Your people are remarkable, Katie Morrison. In the 3 months since Earth joined the galactic community, you have already made quite an impression. Is that good or bad? Katie asked. That depends on perspective. Some species find humans fascinating. Others find you terrifying. Most find you both. Lixil turned to face her. Tell me, have you heard of the Krell Syndicate? The group Kelthros worked for? Only what he said. They are pirates, criminals, and murderers. For the past 20 years, they have been attacking trade convoys, taking hostages, and demanding ransoms. They target diplomatic vessels, medical ships, anyone they think cannot fight back. Galactic law enforcement has been largely ineffective against them. Katie frowned. Why, don't you have military ships or something? We do, but you must understand something about galactic civilization. Most species evolved on peaceful worlds. We have conflicts, yes, but our wars are small, measured, careful. The Krell are different. They come from a world harsher than most, though still far gentler than Earth. They are willing to kill without hesitation. Most security forces surrender rather than risk casualties. That's just letting them do whatever they want. Yes. Lixil's expression was sad. It is a failing of our society. We value life so highly that we often choose submission over combat. But now humans have entered the equation. You come from a world where death is a constant presence. You have evolved not just to survive, but to fight back. Katie was beginning to see where this was going. You want to hire humans. The Council wishes to offer a proposal. We need escorts for a diplomatic convoy traveling to the outer reaches. It is a peace conference, very important, very visible. We expect the Krell will attack. Normal security forces would surrender. But humans, Lixil paused. Humans might actually protect the convoy. How many humans are you thinking? We have already contacted 3 other human contractors in this sector. All have military or security experience like yourself. The pay would be substantial and it would establish humans as valuable partners in galactic affairs. Katie thought about it. The money would be good, enough to let her buy her own cargo ship instead of leasing, and if she was being honest, the idea of stopping pirates appealed to her. She'd spent her military years protecting people. Going back to that wouldn't be so bad. What about Kelthros? She asked. Am I in trouble for defending myself? The security chief made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. The Krell Syndicate has filed a formal complaint, yes. But given that you were fired upon first and the entire incident was recorded by station security, you're clearly within your rights. Besides, the Council's protection would shield you from any retaliation. Kelthros survived, I assume? He woke up 30 minutes ago in the medical bay. He has 3 broken ribs, a fractured arm, and what your people would call a severe concussion. He is also completely terrified and has requested immediate transport off the station. The chief's antennae moved in what Katie was learning to recognize as amusement. I believe you may have created a new phobia among the Krell. Katie felt a little bad about that, but not too much. Kelthros had been threatening innocent people and had literally shot her in the face. So when does this convoy leave? Lixil's eyes seemed to brighten. You accept the contract? I want to see the details first, but yeah, probably. Sounds more interesting than hauling mining equipment. Excellent. Lixil produced a data tablet from within its robes and handed it to Katie. The convoy departs in 4 days. You will meet the other human contractors tomorrow to coordinate. The route and payment details are all here. Katie scrolled through the information. The money was very good, better than 6 months of freight jobs. The route would take them through several systems, ending at a station called Unity Point. 3 weeks total travel time. I'll do it, she said. Then on behalf of the Galactic Council, welcome to the Diplomatic Protection Service. Lixil extended one long-fingered hand. Katie shook it gently, aware that she could probably break the ambassador's delicate bones with too much pressure. After Lixil left, the security chief finished Katie's statement and cleared her of any wrongdoing. Katie walked back to her ship through the station's corridors, very aware of how aliens moved out of her way now. Word had spread fast. The human who'd been shot in the face and walked it off. The Deathworlder who'd put a Krell enforcer through 2 tables. Back on the Lucky Strike, her cargo ship, Katie sat in the pilot's chair and... The meeting room was small but comfortable, with chairs adjusted for different body types and a view screen showing the station's docking area. Katie arrived first, sipping coffee from a container she'd brought from her ship. Real Earth coffee was expensive out here, but absolutely worth it. The door opened and a man walked in who looked like he could wrestle bears for fun. He was tall, heavily muscled, with dark skin and a shaved head. He wore a pilot's jacket that had seen better days and carried himself with easy confidence. You must be Katie Morrison, he said, extending his hand. Jake Harper. I heard about your little incident in the cantina. Shot in the face and still standing. That's pretty hardcore. Katie shook his hand, noting his firm grip. It wasn't that impressive. The medical gel fixed it up pretty quick. Most species would have died instantly. You walked it off and knocked the guy through furniture. That's the kind of reputation we want out here. Jake grabbed a chair and spun it around, sitting backward on it. So freight hauler turned security escort? How'd you end up in space? Better pay than ranching, you? Former atmospheric fighter pilot. Did 2 tours in the Pacific Theater, then figured I'd try my hand at exploring the galaxy. Been out here about 5 months now, mostly running escort jobs for merchant ships. He grinned. Never thought I'd be protecting diplomats, though. The door opened again and a woman entered with short black hair and sharp eyes that immediately scanned the room. She moved with precision, like everything was calculated and measured. Her clothing was practical, all pockets and reinforced fabric. Lisa Chen, she introduced herself. Combat engineer, recently civilian contractor. You're the ones who took the council job? That's us, Katie said. You've done security work before? Plenty. Built defensive positions, cleared mines, ran protection details for supply convoys. This should be straightforward as long as everyone follows protocol. Lisa pulled out a data pad and started making notes. We'll need to coordinate ship positions, establish communication channels, and run drills with the convoy crew. Have you met them yet? The aliens we're protecting? Jake asked, briefly. They're nervous about having humans aboard. Apparently we have a reputation for being unpredictable and violent. Katie frowned. We're not violent. We're just good at defending ourselves. To someone who's never seen real combat, there's no difference. Lisa looked up from her data pad. We need to be careful about how we present ourselves. These diplomats come from peaceful species. They're not used to people who've seen actual war. The door opened one more time, and the last member of their team entered. Marcus Day was average height but built like a tank, with brown hair starting to gray at the temples and scars on his visible skin. He had the look of someone who'd seen too much and survived anyway. Sorry I'm late, he said in a gravelly voice. Had to finish a job. Marcus Day, former Special Operations. Heard we're babysitting politicians? Protecting diplomats, Lisa corrected. There's a difference. Not to the people trying to kill them. Marcus grabbed a chair and sat down heavily. So what's the actual threat assessment? The council was vague in their briefing. Lisa pulled up a file on the view screen. Images appeared of a reptilian species similar to Kelthros, but these wore coordinated armor and carried military-grade weapons. The Krell Syndicate. They've hit 7 diplomatic convoys in the past 2 years. Average casualty rate is 40%, mostly from ships being destroyed after they surrender. They kill people who surrender? Katie felt her anger rising. That's just murder. It's effective terrorism. They take some prisoners for ransom and kill the rest to send a message. Most security forces give up immediately because fighting back historically just gets everyone killed faster. Marcus studied the images carefully, but they've never fought humans before. That's the advantage, Jake said. They don't know what we're capable of. They're used to species that can't take much damage, that panic under fire, that value individual lives over mission completion. Katie understood what he meant, but she didn't like how it sounded. We're not going to throw lives away just to win a fight. No, Marcus agreed. But we will take risks that other species won't. We'll keep fighting when they'd surrender. That's what makes us dangerous. Lisa brought up the convoy route on the screen. 5 diplomatic ships, all civilian transports with minimal defensive capabilities. We'll be traveling through 3 systems, 2 of which have known Krell activity. The journey takes 3 weeks. What kind of ships do we have? Jake asked. I've got a modified cargo hauler, Katie said. Decent engines, basic shields, no weapons. I'm flying a scout ship with light armaments, Jake added. Fast and maneuverable. Heavy freighter with reinforced hull and plasma cannons, Lisa said. Slow but tough. Assault transport, Marcus finished. Military surplus, full weapons package. It's old but reliable. Lisa nodded, making notes. We can work with that. Katie, your ship can run interference and evacuate diplomats if needed. Jake, you're our fast response and reconnaissance. I'll take point position and draw fire. Marcus, you're our heavy hitter. They spent the next 2 hours planning tactics, communication protocols, and emergency procedures. Katie was impressed by how professional everyone was. These weren't cowboys looking for adventure. They were experienced soldiers who knew their jobs. "One more thing," Marcus said as they wrapped up. "The aliens are going to be watching us constantly. Every little thing we do is going to confirm or challenge their ideas about humans. We need to be aware of that. So don't act like monsters," Jake said with a slight smile. "Act like professionals. Show them we're not just tough, we're competent. That we can be trusted." Marcus stood up, stretching his back. "First impressions matter out here. We're representing Earth whether we like it or not." The convoy was scheduled to depart in 3 days. Katie spent that time making repairs to her ship and getting to know the diplomatic crews. It was an interesting experience. The aliens treated her with a mixture of awe, fear, and curiosity that she found uncomfortable. The head of the convoy was Captain Vex, a feline-like being with orange fur and sharp green eyes. Vex was cautious and intelligent, asking Katie dozens of questions about human capabilities and limitations. "Is it true humans can survive in vacuum for brief periods?" Vex asked during one inspection. "Not survive exactly," Katie explained. "We can stay conscious for maybe 15 seconds, and with quick treatment, we might live through a minute or two of exposure. But it's not something we'd do voluntarily." "Fascinating. Most species would die almost instantly." Vex made notes on a datapad. "And your healing factor?" "The reports say you recover from injuries remarkably fast. Faster than some species, I guess. We've got good immune systems and cellular regeneration. A broken bone might heal in 6 to 8 weeks, cuts and bruises even faster." Katie shrugged. "It's just normal for us." "Normal," Vex repeated, shaking their head. "Everything about your species redefines normal." Katie met other crew members over the next few days. There was Pip, a small blue creature who managed communications and was absolutely terrified of humans. There was Croth, a rock-like being who served as the chief engineer and seemed more interested than afraid. There was Della, a floating jellyfish-like diplomat who spoke in beautiful musical tones and treated Katie with gentle kindness. On the day before departure, the 4 human contractors met with Ambassador Lixel for a final briefing. The conference we're attending could change the political landscape of 3 sectors, Lixel explained. Images of various species appearing on the view screen. We're negotiating trade agreements, peace treaties, and resource sharing. If the Krell disrupt this meeting, it could set back decades of diplomatic progress. We won't let that happen, Marcus said with quiet confidence. I believe you, but I must ask, if you encounter the Krell, how will you respond? Will you destroy them? Katie saw her teammates exchange glances. Finally, Lisa spoke. We'll respond with appropriate force. If they attack, we'll defend. If they surrender, we'll accept it. We're not executioners. Even knowing they've murdered innocent beings? Even then, Katie said. That's what separates us from them. We have rules. We have honor. We don't kill people who can't fight back. Lixil seemed satisfied with that answer. Then I wish you safe travels. The galaxy is watching this convoy with great interest. Show them what humans can do. Departure day arrived clear and calm, at least by station standards. The 5 diplomatic ships formed up in a loose cluster, with the human vessels taking positions around them like protective wolves circling a herd. Katie brought her ship, the Lucky Strike, into position on the convoy's left flank. All ships, this is Captain Vex, came the voice over the communication channel. We are beginning our journey. Estimated travel time to the first jump gate is 6 hours. Stay in formation and maintain communication discipline. Human vessels, this is Marcus. Radio check acknowledged by call sign. Jake here. Reading you clearly, Lisa confirmed. Katie, loud and clear. The convoy moved out slowly at first, then picking up speed as they left the station's gravity well. Katie watched the stars stream past her view screen and felt that familiar thrill of heading into the unknown. This was why she'd left Earth for moments like this. 2 weeks into the journey, the convoy had settled into a comfortable routine. Katie had spent time on each of the diplomatic ships, getting to know the crews and helping with minor repairs. Her military engineering background made her useful, and the aliens were slowly getting used to having a human around. She was sharing a meal with Pip, the small blue communications officer, when the alarm went off. Proximity alert, Pip squeaked, their translator making their panic clear. Multiple ships dropping out of jump space. Captain Vex is calling all crew to stations. Katie was moving before Pip finished speaking. She ran through the corridor to the airlock where her ship was docked, pulling on her protective gear as she went. The armor was standard Earth military issue. Nothing fancy. but it could stop most small arms fire and would keep her alive in vacuum for about 30 minutes. She sealed her helmet and jumped into the Lucky Strike, firing up the engines before she even sat down. Her console lit up with tactical information. 6 ships had appeared around the convoy, boxing them in, large ships bristling with weapons. The Krell Syndicate had come in force. All human vessels, this is Marcus. Battle Formation Delta. Katie, you're on evac duty. Jake, recon and harassment. Lisa, you're our shield. I'll take the big guns. Confirmed, Katie said, pulling her ship away from the diplomatic vessel and moving into position. On her screens, she could see the other human ships doing the same, forming a protective screen between the diplomats and the pirates. A voice boomed over the open communication channel. Diplomatic convoy. This is Commander Drakmore of the Krell Syndicate. Power down your ships and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in complete destruction. Captain Vex's voice came through, trembling slightly. This is Captain Vex of the diplomatic vessel Unity Star. We are willing to negotiate. Please don't fire. There is no negotiation. Surrender now. Katie watched her tactical display, seeing the Krell ships moving closer, weapons charging. This was the moment where most convoys gave up, where the security forces backed down to avoid casualties. She wondered if Vex would order them to stand down. Captain Vex, Marcus said calmly. With respect, we're not surrendering. There was a long pause. Then Vex's voice came back, stronger this time. Human vessels, you have operational authority. Do what you must. Katie felt a grim satisfaction. Vex was trusting them, putting the lives of hundreds of diplomats in human hands. They wouldn't let that trust be misplaced. All human vessels engage at will. Let's show these pirates what a mistake looks like. The Krell opened fire first, dozens of weapons lighting up space with energy beams and missiles. It was overwhelming firepower, enough to vaporize an entire fleet. The diplomatic ships immediately began evasive maneuvers, their shields flaring as impacts hit home. But the human ships didn't retreat. They accelerated forward straight into the weapons fire. Jake's scout ship danced through the barrage like it was choreographed, too fast and agile to be easily targeted. He returned fire with precision strikes, taking out weapon emplacements and sensors. Lisa's heavy freighter absorbed hits that would have destroyed most ships. Her reinforced hull holding while her plasma cannons tore into the nearest Krell vessel. Marcus's assault transport was a beast, trading fire with 2 Krell ships at once. His weapons were military grade and he knew how to use them. One Krell ship lost its engines in the first exchange, drifting helplessly out of formation. Katie focused on her job. One of the diplomatic ships had taken damage, its shields failing. She brought the Lucky Strike alongside and opened her cargo bay doors. Unity Star, this is Morrison. I'm in position for emergency evac if you need it. Negative, Morrison, Vex replied. My ship is holding. Protect the others. Katie switched targets, moving to intercept missiles heading for another diplomatic vessel. She fired her point defense systems, small rapid-fire weapons designed for exactly this purpose. Missiles exploded in bright flashes, their debris scattering harmlessly. On her display, she saw Jake's ship take a direct hit from a Krell beam weapon. Her heart jumped into her throat. Jake's status. Took some paint off. Jake's voice came back, strained but alive. Shields at 30%. Still in the fight. The battle was chaos, but organized chaos. The human ships worked together like they'd been a team for years instead of weeks. Lisa drew fire, giving Marcus openings to strike. Jake harassed and distracted, making the Krell waste ammunition on a target they couldn't hit. Katie kept the diplomatic ship safe, intercepting anything that got through the defensive screen. But they were outnumbered 3-1, and the Krell had bigger ships with more firepower. Slowly, inevitably, the human vessels were taking damage. Katie's shields were down to 40%. Lisa's freighter had lost one of its main guns. Marcus was venting atmosphere from a hull breach. This isn't working, Lisa said over their private channel. We need to change tactics. Agreed, Marcus replied. Katie, how's your boarding gear? Katie looked at the equipment locker in her cargo bay. She had magnetic boots, a cutting torch, and a basic sidearm. Functional, why? Because we're going to do something these pirates won't expect. We're going to board them. It was a crazy idea. Boarding actions were rare in galactic warfare because most species couldn't survive the crossing from ship to ship. The vacuum, the radiation, the violence of it all was too much. But humans had trained for exactly this kind of situation. I'm in, Katie said. Same here, Jake added. Insane, but effective. Lisa concluded. I'll keep them busy. Marcus's voice took on a commander's tone. Okay, here's the plan. Lisa, you're going to ram the flagship. Get close enough that they can't shoot you without hitting themselves. Jake and I will dock with the ship on the left. Katie, you take the one on the right. Once we're inside, we disable their command centers and force a surrender. What about the other 3 ships? Jake asked. The diplomatic vessels have basic weapons. Once we take out the 3 biggest threats, Vex can handle the rest. It was a desperate plan, the kind of thing that only made sense when you were out of options. But looking at her tactical display, seeing the damage mounting on all sides, Katie knew Marcus was right. They couldn't win this by playing defense. Let's do it, she said. Lisa's freighter suddenly broke formation and accelerated straight at the Krell flagship. The pirates fired everything they had, but Lisa's shields held just long enough. Her ship crashed into the flagship's hull with tremendous force, the reinforced prow smashing through armor plating. The 2 ships locked together in a deadly embrace. Katie aimed the lucky strike at her target, a Krell cruiser that was focused on firing at the diplomatic vessels. She pushed her engines to maximum, feeling the acceleration push her back into her seat. The cruiser noticed her approach and tried to target her, but she was too close, too fast. She hit the ship's hull at an angle, using her cargo bay doors like a grappling hook. Metal screamed as the 2 vessels connected. Katie grabbed her gear, equalized the pressure in the airlock, and cut through the hull with her torch. The Krell ship's interior was dark and full of smoke from the impact. Gravity was different here, lighter than what Katie was used to. She pushed through the hole she'd made and found herself in a storage bay full of surprised pirates. They were big, reptilian, armed with rifles and armor. There were 6 of them and 1 of her. For a moment, everyone just stared at each other. Then Katie moved. She'd trained in close-quarters combat for years, both in the military and growing up on a ranch where you sometimes had to wrestle animals that outweighed you. The Krell were bigger than her, but they weren't ready for how fast she could move in their lighter gravity. She closed the distance before they could fire, grabbing the nearest Krell's rifle and using it to strike the one next to him. They fell in a tangle of limbs. Katie rolled under another Krell's swing, came up behind him and hit a pressure point on his neck that she'd learned worked on most species. He dropped like a stone, 3 left. They were spreading out now, trying to surround her. Katie grabbed a piece of debris from the floor and threw it at one Krell's head. It connected with a satisfying crack. She ducked under another's rifle shot, feeling the heat of the energy beam pass over her head, and swept his legs out from under him. The last 2 finally got organized and fired together. Katie dove behind a crate, feeling the impact shake her cover. She was pinned down now, outgunned. She needed to think. Then she remembered what Kelthros had said. On my world, we call this a Tuesday. These pirates were used to fighting species that gave up when hurt, that valued their lives over victory. They weren't used to humans. Katie stood up and walked toward them, right into their line of fire. They shot her 3 times in the chest before they realized she was wearing armor. The impacts hurt, knocked the wind out of her, but the armor held. She was still standing, still coming forward. The Krell's eyes went wide with terror. They stumbled backward, firing wildly. Katie reached the first one and disarmed him with a move that would have made her combat instructor proud. She used his body as a shield to reach the last one, who dropped his weapon and ran. Katie let him go. She wasn't here to kill everyone. She was here to stop the attack. She made her way through the ship, following signs that her translator converted to standard galactic text. The command center was 3. The peace conference was held on Unity Point, a massive station built specifically for diplomatic events. It floated in neutral space, equally distant from the territories of 12 different species. The station was beautiful, all graceful curves and transparent sections showing the stars beyond. Katie walked through the main plaza, still not quite used to the attention she was getting. Everywhere she went, aliens stopped to stare. Some took photos. Others whispered to their companions. A few brave ones approached to ask questions or request autographs. The battle with the Krell had been recorded by the diplomatic ship's sensors. Within days, the footage had spread across the entire galactic network. Everyone had seen the human contractors fight off 6 pirate vessels, seen them board enemy ships and win against impossible odds. Overnight, humans had gone from unknown newcomers to legendary figures. Jake was handling the fame better than Katie. He currently sat at a cafe surrounded by young aliens who hung on his every word as he recounted the battle. Lisa had already given 3 interviews to galactic news networks. Marcus had disappeared somewhere, probably finding a quiet corner to avoid the crowds. Katie found a bench overlooking a garden section and sat down gratefully. Her body still ached from the fight 2 weeks ago. She'd cracked 2 ribs, dislocated her shoulder, and collected enough bruises to make a colorful map. The station's doctors had been amazed at how fast she was healing. "Mind if I join you?" Katie looked up to see Ambassador Lixel standing there, robes flowing in an artificial breeze. "Of course, Ambassador, please." Lixel sat down with inhuman grace. "You seem uncomfortable with your celebrity status." "I didn't do anything special. Just my job." "That's precisely what makes it special," Lixil said. "You saw a threat, you responded. You protected those who needed protection. To you, this is normal. To the rest of the galaxy, it's heroic." Katie watched a group of insectoid beings playing with their young in the garden. The children were laughing, chasing each other around flowering plants that glowed softly. Is this what the conference is about? Making sure they can grow up safe? In essence, yes. We're negotiating trade routes, resource sharing, and mutual defense agreements. But ultimately, it's all about creating a galaxy where beings can live without fear. Lixil paused. Thanks to you and your fellow humans, we're actually making progress. Species that were afraid to commit are now willing to negotiate. Your presence has changed the entire dynamic. How so? Before, every species had to rely on themselves for security. But security forces cost resources, and most civilizations prefer to spend those resources on science, art, and quality of life. They knew the risk but accepted it because they had no alternative. Lixil gestured at the garden. Now they have an alternative. Humans can be that security, that protection, allowing others to focus on what they do best. Katie frowned. You want us to be the galaxy's soldiers? I want humans to be the galaxy's protectors if you're willing. There's a difference. Lixil pulled out a data tablet and handed it to Katie. The Galactic Council is proposing something we're calling the Deathworld Treaty. It's an agreement that would integrate Earth fully into galactic society. Katie scrolled through the document. It was long and full of legal language, but the basics were clear. Earth would gain access to advanced technology, full trading rights, and representation on the Galactic Council. In exchange, humans would provide security services, serve as peacekeepers, and help protect civilizations that couldn't protect themselves. This is a big deal, Katie said. It would change everything for your planet. Free energy technology, medical advances, faster-than-light travel available to everyone. Earth could skip centuries of development. Lixil's galactic eyes studied Katie carefully. But it also means accepting responsibility for the safety of thousands of worlds. It means humans would be called upon whenever there's danger. Is that something your people want? Katie thought about her conversation with her sister Beth, about the ranch back home, about all the humans she knew. I can't speak for everyone, but I know this. Humans don't like standing by when people need help. We're not built that way. If someone's in trouble and we can do something about it, we do. Even if it means putting yourselves in danger, especially then. Katie handed the tablet back. But I'm just one person. This kind of decision needs to be made by Earth's leaders, by people who understand politics and long-term consequences. True. But first we need to present the proposal. The conference wants to hear from humans directly. Would you be willing to speak? You and your team? Katie's stomach clenched with anxiety. Speaking in front of crowds was not her strength. What would we say? The truth. Tell them about Earth, tell them about humans. Help them understand why you do what you do. Lixil stood up. The presentation is tomorrow evening. Think about it. After Lixil left, Katie found Marcus sitting alone on an observation deck staring out at the stars. She sat down next to him without saying anything. They'd developed that kind of friendship over the past few weeks, comfortable silences and mutual understanding. They want us to speak at the conference, Marcus said after a while. You heard? Lixil asked me first. I told her I'm better at shooting than talking. He glanced at Katie. But someone needs to do it. These aliens need to understand we're not just weapons to be pointed at their enemies. What are we then? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. We're people who grew up hard. Earth didn't give us any easy answers. We learned to be tough because we had to be, but we also learned to be kind, to help each other, to protect those who can't protect themselves. That's what makes us human. Katie nodded slowly. I'll do it. I'll speak tomorrow. We'll all speak. Show them we're a team, not just individuals. Marcus smiled slightly. Besides, Jake's already writing his speech. It involves a lot of dramatic gestures. The next evening, Katie stood backstage in the conference hall, her heart pounding. She wore her best clothes, which wasn't saying much. A simple blue shirt and dark pants, the kind of thing she'd wear to a family dinner back home. Lisa had offered to lend her something more formal, but Katie wanted to be herself, not pretend to be someone she wasn't. Jake was pacing nervously, which was odd, because he'd seemed so confident before. Lisa was reviewing notes on her datapad. Marcus looked calm, but Katie could see the tension in his shoulders. "We're really doing this," Jake muttered. "Too late to back out now," Lisa said. A holographic assistant appeared, its form shifting colors. "You're on in 2 minutes. Please prepare to enter." Katie took a deep breath and thought about home. She thought about her family, her sister, the ranch, the mountains. She thought about why she'd come to space in the first place. Not for glory or fame, but to see new things, meet new people, maybe make a difference. They walked onto the stage together, and Katie almost stopped in shock. The auditorium was enormous, filled with thousands of beings from hundreds of species. The noise was overwhelming, a mixture of languages and sounds her translator couldn't process. Cameras floated in the air, recording everything. Ambassador Lixel stood at a podium waiting for them. The crowd slowly quieted as the humans took their positions on stage. "Honored delegates," Lixel began, "I present to you the human contractors who defended Diplomatic Convoy 7 against the Krell Syndicate. They have agreed to speak with you today about Earth and its people." Lixel stepped aside, and Katie found herself at the podium, looking out at thousands of faces. Her mouth went dry. She'd faced down pirates with guns, but this was somehow more terrifying. Then she saw a small being in the front row, one of the children from the diplomatic ship they'd protected. The child waved at her, smiling. Katie waved back, and suddenly it wasn't scary anymore. She knew why she was here. "Hi," she said, her voice amplified across the hall. "My name is Katie Morrison. I'm from a place on Earth called Montana. It's pretty there. Lots of mountains and open spaces. Before I came to space, I worked on my family's ranch, taking care of animals and fixing equipment." She could see some confusion in the crowd. They'd expected some kind of warrior queen, not a ranch worker. "I'm telling you this because I want you to understand something. I'm not special. Where I come from, I'm pretty normal. Most humans are like me. We work hard, we take care of our families, we try to do the right thing." Katie paused. "But yeah, we also come from a planet that the galaxy calls a Deathworld. And I guess that makes us different." Jake stepped up to join her. "I'm Jake Harper, former pilot. I grew up in California by the ocean. I learned to fly because I loved the freedom of it, the challenge. Earth's atmosphere isn't easy to fly in. Strong winds, sudden storms, equipment that breaks down. But that's what made me a good pilot. I had to learn to handle problems, to adapt, to keep going when things got tough." Lisa moved to the podium next. "Lisa Chen, combat engineer. I'm from Texas. I joined the military because I wanted to protect people, to build things that kept soldiers safe. Earth has wars, conflicts, violence. We're not proud of that, but it taught us how to defend ourselves, how to work together, how to survive against threats that want to destroy us." Marcus was last. His voice was quiet but carried weight. "Marcus Day. I've seen combat on 3 continents on Earth. I've lost friends. I've been scared. But I learned something important through all of that. Being